All right, so today let's dive into something I think is really cool. Custom notebooks. I bet you're thinking, wait, what? Custom notebooks. But they can actually do wonders for boosting a brand's visibility.
Yeah, yeah.
They can really make a statement. We're looking at some excerpts from Elisair.txt because this really interesting piece. It's packed with practical advice for business owners. And maybe you listening right now, maybe you're looking for a way to make your brand stand out in a crowded market. And
Yeah.
this deep dive might just give you the answer you're looking for.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's so easy to get lost in the noise these days, especially with all the digital ads everywhere you look. So going back to basics, creating something tangible, something people can connect with on a personal level, that's what this is all about.
Okay? I'll admit, when I first heard about this idea, my mind went straight to those freebie notebooks you get at conferences. You know, the ones I'm talking about. Not exactly the most exciting thing in the world.
Haha. I know what you mean. I get it. But trust me, custom notebooks, when they're done right, it's a whole different ballgame. Think about it for a second. Traditional advertising. How effective is it really these days? How many TV commercials do you actually pay attention to anymore?
Honestly,
Right. People are tuning out, they're bombarded with ads constantly, but a custom notebook, that's something different. It's tangible. They'll use it day after day. So it's a constant reminder of your brand, not just a fleeting image or a message that disappears after a few seconds.
so it's like a mini billboard, but less annoying.
I like it. Exactly. And the best part, there's actual data to back this up. The Promotional Products Association International, they found that 83% of people remember the branding on promotional products. Think about that for a second. 83%. That's incredible staying power.
Okay, you've got my attention. 83% is a big number, but let's go a little deeper here. The source mentions something about custom notebooks creating an emotional connection. How does that work? How does a notebook do that?
It's subtle, but it's incredibly powerful. It becomes part of their daily life. It's not just an object anymore. It's a space for their thoughts, ideas, maybe even dreams.
You know what? I actually still have this notebook. A mentor gave it to me years ago,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't use it for just anything. It feels special. So I think I understand what you mean.
There you go. That's exactly the feeling we're talking about. And this taps into a bigger trend, this desire for personalized experiences. People want to feel seen and understood. A custom notebook done right, it says, "We get you." It's not just a sales pitch.
Okay, so we've got the constant visibility, the emotional connection. What's the third reason these notebooks are so effective?
Well, think about where a notebook goes. It travels with its owner to meetings, coffee shops, maybe even on vacation. And that's free advertising in all sorts of places.
I can picture it now. Someone at a conference, they pull out their sleek custom notebook, and everyone around them is like, whoa, what brand is that?
You got it. It sparks curiosity. It's organic, not forced. Speaking of brands doing this well, the source mentions Moleskine.
Oh yeah, Losking. Their notebooks are practically iconic. But aren't they just notebooks?
On the surface, yeah. But they've managed to create a whole image. When you see someone with a moleskin, what do you think? Creative? Organized? Maybe a little bit of a free spirit? That's brand association at work.
So it's not just about slapping a logo on something. It's about making the notebook an extension of your brand's personality.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking, what would my ideal custom notebook look like?
That's the question every business owner should be asking themselves. What story would your notebook tell? What feeling would it evoke?
Lots to think about. But before I get too carried away, let's go back to something you mentioned, this whole idea of brand association. Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. Brand association. It's all about the link between your brand and certain qualities or values. Think about Apple. Sleek, innovative, maybe even a bit luxurious. Those are the associations they've carefully built over time.
So when you see that Apple logo, you automatically think those things.
Exactly. And with a custom notebook, you can do the same thing. You can weave those associations right into the design, the materials, even the type of paper.
I never thought I'd be this fascinated by paper choices. This is getting really interesting. So we've talked about why custom notebooks are such a smart marketing tool. They're visible. They create that emotional connection. They can even turn into these mini brand ambassadors. But how does someone actually make this happen? How do they go from idea to finished product?
That's where the rubber meets the road. And the source actually lays out some key steps. The first one might seem obvious, but it's absolutely crucial. Define your brand identity. Really think about what message you want this notebook to send. What feeling do you want people to have when they hold it in their hands?
So it's like figuring out the soul of the notebook before you even start thinking about design.
Precisely. Once you've got that clarity, Then you can move on to specific features. What kind of notebook best represents your brand? A classic journal, a sleek planner, a
Okay,
sketchbook.
hold on. Sketchbook, different types of paper.
Yeah, it's a detail that can make all the difference. Let's say your brand is all about sustainability. You might choose recycled paper with a natural earthy texture. Or if you're going for a luxury feel, maybe a smooth, high GSM paper is a better choice.
Okay, I'm officially geeking out on paper now. Who knew there was so much to it? So we've got our brand identity nailed down. We've picked the perfect paper. What's next?
Well, you probably don't have a bookbinding machine just sitting in your office. That's where partnering with a custom notebook manufacturer comes in.
Makes sense. Definitely easier than trying to do it yourself. The source actually mentions a company called Lion Paper. What can you tell us about them?
They seem to be a popular choice. The source highlights their creative flexibility. They can really help you design a notebook that aligns with your vision, no matter how unique it is.
So they're not just churning out generic notebooks with logos slapped on.
Not at all. It's all about collaboration, making sure your notebook is truly custom. And from what I've read, they're also big on quality, high quality materials, strict quality control, so you can be confident you're getting a product that represents your brand well.
That's important. You don't want your custom notebook falling apart after a week.
Yeah.
What else makes Lion Paper stand out?
Well, the source mentions their quick turnaround time, and we all know time is money, so being able to get your custom notebooks quickly, that's a huge advantage. Plus, they're known for their competitive pricing.
Okay, so they're ticking all the boxes. Creative, high quality, fast, affordable. Sounds promising. But let's say our listener is on board. They're ready to roll with custom notebooks. What are the actual steps they need to take?
All right, let's map it out. First, you have that brand identity deep dive we talked about. Really crystallize what you want your notebook to represent. Then you get specific with the features. Think about the size, the paper type, any special add-ons. Once you have your vision locked in, it's time to find the right manufacturing partner.
Like Lion Paper, for example.
Exactly. Or another manufacturer that aligns with your needs. Do your research, look at portfolios, make sure you feel good about their approach.
So we've designed the perfect notebook. We've found our manufacturing dream team. What happens next?
Now comes the fun part, distribution. How are you going to get these awesome notebooks into the hands of your target audience?
Now that's a question I'm eager to hear the answer to.
Well, that's what we'll be diving into in part 2, so stay tuned.
Can't wait.
Okay, so remember how we were talking about distribution, like
Yeah.
getting those custom notebooks into the right hands? Well, let's actually jump into some real-world examples, where custom notebooks were a key part of building a brand.
Yes, let's hear some stories. Everyone loves a good story.
All right, so one that comes to mind, it's this small design studio. They were having a tough time. They were really struggling to stand out. You know how competitive the market is.
Yeah, definitely.
So they tried all the usual stuff, online ads, social media, you name it.
Nothing was really working.
Right, it was all just kind of blending in. And then they had this idea. What if they created custom notebooks as part of their client onboarding process?
Interesting. So instead of just sending a welcome email, they sent a physical notebook.
Exactly. It was like a welcome gift, but also a subtle way to reinforce their brand. They worked with a manufacturer to design something that really reflected their aesthetic.
What was it like?
Well, they were going for a minimalist look, so high-quality paper, a simple logo on the cover, and a cool quote on the inside about the power of design.
Okay, I like it. But did it actually work?
It totally did. Their clients loved it. It was this personal touch. And the notebooks became this constant reminder of the studio, their brand, their values. And get this, they even started seeing their clients, using the notebooks in meetings with potential clients.
So it was like their clients were doing the marketing for them.
Exactly. Word of mouth marketing, but with a super stylish notebook.
I love it. It's like they turned their clients into brand ambassadors.
Right. Without even having to ask.
And the best part is, it didn't cost them a fortune.
Nope. Small gesture, big impact.
This is making me think about all the different ways you could use custom notebooks. But, we talked earlier about all the paper choices.
Yeah.
How did this design studio decide what paper to use?
That's such a good point. Choosing the right paper is super important. It's more than just how it looks. It's the feel, the writing experience. It all adds to the impression.
Right, it's all connected.
So in this case, They went with a thick, smooth paper. It felt luxurious to write on, which aligned with their focus on high-quality design.
It's like even the paper became part of their brand story.
Exactly. Every detail matters.
This is blowing my mind.
Now, remember how we were talking about how custom notebooks align with modern marketing trends?
Oh yeah, we're talking about authenticity and connection
Yeah.
and how people are creating those things, especially in this digital world.
Right. And remember that study we mentioned from the UK Journal of Advertising Research?
So what about purchasing decisions being based on emotion?
Exactly. 70% of purchasing decisions are based on emotion.
Wow, 70%. That's crazy.
I know. It just shows how important it is to connect with people on an emotional level, and a custom notebook is a great way to do that.
It makes sense. It's tangible. It's personal. It's something you can experience with your senses.
Exactly. It's not just a fleeting image on a screen.
So it's like it cuts through all the noise.
Right. It's something people will actually hold on to, something they'll appreciate.
I love it. But okay, I have to ask, are there any downsides? Could this whole custom notebook thing backfire?
That's a great question. And you're right, any marketing tactic can backfire. If it's not done right, I think one of the biggest mistakes is creating a notebook that's too generic, something that doesn't truly reflect the brand.
So just slapping your logo on a basic notebook, that's not going to cut it.
Nope, not at all. That's why that first step is so important, defining your brand identity.
Right.
You really have to understand what makes you unique, what message you want to send, and who you're trying to reach.
Right. It has to be an extension of your brand.
Exactly. Another potential pitfall is not thinking about the quality, the materials, the user experience. If you have a poorly made notebook, flimsy paper, bad binding, it's going to reflect poorly on your brand.
Yeah, it's like you think you're going for cheap and cheerful, but it ends up sending the wrong message.
Totally. It can do more harm than good. That's why it's important to invest in quality and to work with a manufacturer who cares about craftsmanship.
So it sounds like it's all about being strategic, intentional.
Exactly.
Don't just jump on the bandwagon.
Right.
Okay, so let's say our listener is ready to go on this custom notebook journey. What are some things they should look for in a manufacturing partner? We've mentioned line paper a few times. What makes them stand out?
Well beyond their creative flexibility and their commitment to quality. One thing the source highlights is their sustainability. They offer a range of eco-friendly options, recycled paper, sustainable inks, things like that.
That's awesome. More and more people are looking for eco-friendly options.
Definitely. Another thing that sets Lion Paper apart is their focus on customization. They have so many options, different sizes, cover materials, binding styles. You can really create something unique.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all situation.
Nope. They encourage businesses to get creative.
I like that.
They even offer special features, like foil stamping, embossing custom inserts.
Wow, they go all out.
They do. They really seem to be passionate about helping businesses.
That's cool. So as our listener is researching different manufacturers, what questions should they be asking?
That's a good question. You definitely want to ask about their experience with custom notebooks, their design process, their production capabilities. Don't be afraid to ask for samples.
Right. You want to see the quality firsthand.
Exactly. And don't forget to ask about pricing and turnaround time.
It's like you're interviewing them.
Right.
Yeah.
You want to make sure it's a good fit.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about the practical side of things, but I think it's important to remember that custom notebooks can also be really creative.
Absolutely. There's something so inspiring about a blank notebook.
It's like a world of possibilities.
Right. And with custom notebooks, you have the chance to create something that reflects your brand.
Your personality, your
Exactly.
values.
Exactly.
It's like taking your brand's digital presence and giving it a physical form.
And that's something people can really connect with.
Okay, so I have another question.
Yep.
The source mentioned something called GSM when talking about paper. What is that?
Ah, yes, GSM. It stands for grams per square meter. It's basically a measure of the paper's weight or thickness.
Okay, so like
Yeah.
a higher GSM means a thicker paper.
Exactly. Think about the difference between a flimsy piece of printer paper and a thick cardstock.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean.
That's GSM at work.
So if you're going for a premium feel, you probably want a higher GSM.
Right. It's all about those subtle cues.
So how do you know what GSM to choose?
Well, there's no one right answer. It depends on your brand and how you want people to use the notebook.
So this, like, if it's for quick notes, maybe a lighter GSM is fine.
Yeah. But if it's a journal for daily writing, you probably want something a little more substantial.
This is making me want to go to a paper store
Hmm.
and just feel all the different papers.
I know what you mean. But besides GSM, there's also the texture of the paper.
Texture. That sounds interesting.
There are so many different textures out there. Smooth, silky, rough, toothy.
Wow, I never knew.
And each texture evokes a different feeling.
So it's not just about how it looks, it's about how it feels.
Exactly. And how it affects the writing experience.
Like some papers are better for certain pens.
Right. Like a smooth paper is great for fountain pens, but a more textured paper might be better for a pencil.
This is fascinating.
It is. It's all about creating the right experience.
So we've talked about GSM and texture. What else should we know about paper?
Well, there's also the brightness or whiteness of the paper.
Whiteness.
It's basically how much light the paper reflects. So a brighter paper will look more vibrant.
And less bright paper will look more subdued.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
a bright paper would make colors pop.
Yeah. And a less bright paper might create a more vintage feel.
Interesting.
Then there's also the opacity.
Opacity.
It's basically how much light can pass through the paper.
So like how see-through it is.
Exactly. A higher opacity means you won't see the ink bleeding through.
So that's important if you're using markers or fountain pens.
Definitely. You don't want your writing to show through to the other side.
Okay, so we've got brightness and opacity. Anything else?
One more thing. Grain direction.
Grain direction. What is that?
Think about how wood has a grain. That runs in a specific direction.
Yeah.
Paper is kind of similar. It has fibers that align in a certain way. And that creates a grain direction.
So how does that affect the notebook?
Well, it can affect how the paper folds and tears, and even how ink absorbs.
Wow, I never knew.
So when you're designing the notebook, you have to consider the grain direction.
So it's a small detail,
Huh.
but it can make a big difference.
Exactly.
This is making me realize that there's a lot more to notebooks than I thought.
There is. It's a combination of art and science.
I love it. So do you have any other examples of businesses using custom notebooks effectively?
Yeah, let's talk about this coffee roastery. Small independent place, they were trying to compete with the big chains.
Coffee. You've got my attention.
So they decided to create custom notebooks as part of a limited edition gift set.
Ooh, what was in the gift set?
A bag of their specialty coffee beans and a branded French press.
That sounds fancy.
It was. And the notebook was designed to reflect their brand.
What was it like?
Well, they were all about sustainability and craftsmanship, so they chose recycled paper with a natural earthy texture, and the cover had this beautiful illustration of coffee beans.
I love that.
The response was amazing. People loved the gift sets. They used the notebooks for all sorts of things, tasting notes, brewing recipes, even creative writing.
That's so cool. It's like the notebook became part of the whole coffee experience.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of custom notebooks. They can be integrated into so many different parts of your business.
Did they sell the notebooks?
Yeah.
Or just give them away?
They did both. They sold the gift sets, and they gave away some notebooks to loyal customers.
That's smart.
And it worked. They saw a big increase in brand awareness.
This is really making me think. It's not just about giving away free stuff.
Nope. It's about creating something special, something that people will value.
All right, so before we wrap up this part, what are the key takeaways here?
Custom notebooks are more than just stationery. They're a powerful way to build your brand, to connect with your audience, and to stand out in a crowded market.
And they can be used in so many creative ways.
Right. The possibilities are endless.
And when you're choosing a manufacturer,
Find someone who gets you, someone who understands your brand.
like Lion Paper.
Exactly. They seem to be a great option.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but in part 3, we're going to get even more tactical.
We'll talk about the actual steps you can take to create your own custom notebooks.
Sounds good. All right, so we've covered so much in this deep dive. It's amazing. From the psychology behind these custom notebooks to real-world examples. Honestly, I'm a believer now.
It's been a journey, right? And honestly, we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore.
I totally agree. But I know our listeners are probably thinking, okay, this is all great, but how do I actually make this happen for my brand?
Right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, the steps you can take to make this custom notebook dream a reality.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so step 1. Remember how we talked about defining your brand identity?
Yeah, that seems to be a recurring theme here.
It's crucial. You got to know your core values, the message you want to send, the feeling you want to evoke.
It's like we said before, it's not just about putting your logo on something.
Exactly. It's got to be a true reflection of your brand. And don't forget about your target audience. Who are you trying to reach?
Right, a notebook for a tech startup is going to look different from a notebook for a yoga studio.
Exactly. You want something that resonates with your ideal customer.
So once you have that figured out, What's next?
Step 2 is all about choosing the right features.
Okay, features. We talk about paper types, GSM, texture, all that.
Right? All that's important. But there's more. Think about the size and format of the notebook. Do you want something small and portable, or something bigger and more substantial?
Right. It depends on how people will use it.
Exactly. And then there's the binding style. Spiral binding, lay flat binding, maybe even something more unique like a Japanese stab binding.
So many choices.
There are. And don't forget about the little details.
Like what kind of details?
A ribbon bookmark, an elastic closure, a pen loop. Those little things can make a big difference.
They can make it feel more special.
Exactly. And if you're feeling really ambitious, you could even add custom inserts or dividers.
Okay, so we've got our brand identity figured out. We've chosen our features. What's next?
Step 3 is finding the right manufacturing partner.
And I think we both agree. Lion paper seems like a great option.
They do. But there are other great manufacturers out there too.
So what should our listeners look for?
Look for a manufacturer who has experience with custom notebooks. Look at their portfolio. Ask for samples.
Right, you want to make sure the quality is there.
Exactly. And pay attention to how they communicate. You want someone who's responsive and easy to work with.
It's like finding a business partner.
It is.
All right, so we found our dream manufacturer. What's next?
Step 4 is distribution.
Okay, how do we get these amazing notebooks into people's hands?
Well, think about your existing marketing channels. Email,
Yeah.
social media, your website.
We can use those to promote the notebooks.
Absolutely. And think about how you can use them to enhance your customer experience.
Like a welcome gift for new customers.
Exactly. Or a thank you gift for loyal customers. You can even use them as part of a special promotion.
So many possibilities.
There are. And don't be afraid to get creative. Think outside the box.
All right, so the notebooks are out there in the world. What's the final step?
Measurement.
Ah, yes, we can't forget about that.
It's important to track your results.
How do we do that?
First, set clear goals.
What are we trying to achieve with these notebooks?
Exactly. Once you have your goals, you can start tracking your progress.
So,
Yeah.
are people talking about the notebooks on social media?
Right. Are you seeing an increase in brand awareness? Are you getting positive feedback from customers?
And ultimately, are the notebooks helping you achieve your business goals?
Exactly. And remember, you can always adjust your strategy along the way.
It's all about learning and improving.
It is.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
Custom notebooks really are a powerful tool.
They are.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is don't underestimate the power of something simple.
I agree. In a world that's so focused on digital, sometimes it's the tangible things that make the biggest impact.
Beautifully said. And for our listeners, if you're feeling inspired and you're ready to start your own custom notebook journey, we encourage you to check out the resources we've mentioned. Lion paper is a great place to start, but there are other great manufacturers out there too. Find one that aligns with your brand, and don't be afraid to get creative. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating.